When a man becomes a father, he's called upon to make sacrifices for his family. And often these will be small sacrifices. Sometimes they'll be larger, though, more significant. And on even rarer occasion, the duties of fatherhood will require him to make the kind of sacrifice that, up to that moment, he would have thought himself incapable of making. These are the moments when a man must become a hero, when he must lay his very life on the line. And this may take many forms. Perhaps he's rushing into a burning building to rescue his child from the fire. Perhaps he has to pull his loved one away from the path of a speeding train because they've been tied to the tracks by bandits or whatever. Or most harrowing of all, he may be compelled by his paternal obligations to go to a movie theater and watch Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Yep, we are doing this guy. What's up everybody and welcome back. Today we'll be going over this Sonic 3 review by Matt Walsh, which wasn't really received well. So I wanted to give my take on it and see how this movie broke him as a father.
Now, a man in that situation would, of course, much prefer to be engulfed in flames or hit by a speeding train, but that would be the coward's way out. He endures Sonic the Hedgehog 3 for the sake of his children, whom he loves. And over Christmas break, that is precisely the situation that I found myself in. Now, for the record, I'll say I greatly enjoyed most of the time that I spent with my wife and kids these past 2 weeks. We had a lot of fun together. We played football. We played outside. We shot BB guns.
Don't care.
We played card games and board games.
Don't care. Still don't care.
I completely wrecked my whole family.
I don't care.
Things took a rather distressing turn on the final Thursday of the break when my 8-year-old son and 5-year-old daughter asked me to take them to go see Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And I did. God help me. God help me.
Bro, God helped you by blessing your kids with excellent taste. You don't have to sit here and act like you're having a whole Vietnam flashback.
I did. Now, before I offer my brief review of this thing that I hesitate to call a film, I must first acknowledge, in all fairness, I never saw Sonic the Hedgehog 1 or Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which is why I hated Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and why it is today, I must say, sadly, canceled. Hey YouTube, thanks for listening.
And that's how the video should have ended, cause you're gonna make a review on a movie that you had no idea about the characters, development, and anything that had transpired before.
It's possible that one cannot fully appreciate the narrative complexities of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 without having seen the first 2 chapters in this epic Hedgehog saga.
No shit.
Maybe the other 2 movies are works of staggering artistic genius that would elevate the 3rd installment and lend it the sort of context necessary for me to have appreciated it and enjoyed it instead of feeling like I was being waterboarded with high fructose corn syrup the whole time.
Again, no shit. Now the only way that this video can be redeemed is that it was on how the movie stand on its own. Is it peak like the earlier Avengers movies where you can just drop into something like Civil War without watching the other movies and still find it pretty cool? Or just drop into something like The Last Skywalker and still come to the conclusion that it smells like Nurgle's morning breath. Straight death.
Somehow Palpatine returned. Somehow Palpatine returned.
But I doubt it. I mean, this is the kind of movie where Jim Carrey plays 2 characters. One is the evil villain, and the other is the evil villain's evil grandfather in old age makeup. And the 2 break into an impromptu dance routine that makes no narrative sense but lasts approximately 87 minutes.
Now see, this is what I'm talking about. If you had the foresight to watch the previous movies, you know that is completely within his character. Those dance sequences are really nothing new.
It's the kind of movie where those same characters before the dance routine actually look directly into the camera and explain that they're being played by the same actor. I must assume, and I think assume safely, that there is nothing in the other 2 films that would make this one any less obnoxious or horrifically stupid.
It's times like these I really miss the dislike button. But it's the 4th wall break, which has been a staple in filmmaking. How is that obnoxious?
I'm not going to bother explaining the plot of this film in any detail. I wasn't tracking it that closely, to be honest. I was mostly fighting to stay awake. This is the kind of movie that bores you to the point of putting you to sleep, but also annoys you at the same time. It's kind of an odd combination to be both sleepy and deeply irritated simultaneously.
Bro, then why does this video exist?
As for the plot, I can only tell you that Sonic is the good hedgehog, which you may know. There's also an evil hedgehog voiced by Keanu Reeves, who, and I like Keanu Reeves, by the way, but like every other voice actor in this film and most voice actors in most children's films that have been made for the past 20 years, he has no talent as a voice actor and doesn't understand how to act with just your voice.
Keanu voices Shadow just fine. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's pretty on point and does him justice.
But he's famous, so that's good enough, I suppose. So Sonic has to stop the evil hedgehog and his evil cohorts. That's the Jim Carrey dancing duo I mentioned earlier.
He keeps saying evil hedgehog. Does this man not remember Shadow's name?
From blowing up the world with a big laser. And, you know, this has been the evil plan of every evil villain in every blockbuster franchise film for the past 3 decades. It's a formula that this movie is not interested in deviating from. This is not the sort of movie that deviates from formulas. Now, if you're wondering why the evil hedgehog and the 2 Jim Carreys want to explode the world and murder 8 billion people in a cosmic blast that they will also die in, it's because the older Jim Carrey's granddaughter, I think, was killed, and now he wants to commit murder-suicide because life isn't worth living. Like, that's real. That's in the movie. He actually declares his suicidal intention as well. Now, if that seems like weirdly bleak and dark for a kid's movie where the characters bust out impromptu dance routines and randomly break the fourth wall and constantly speak in internet lingo from 2019, there's a lot of that, by the way. Just as one example, at one point, Jim Carrey says, "Damn you, autocorrect." If it seems weirdly bleak and dark for that kind of movie, it's because it is.
Okay, first of all, you mentioned that it is not interested in deviating from a formula, which isn't a real problem, might I add. But then you say how they deviate from the formula? Secondly, he doesn't want to destroy the world because life wasn't worth living anymore. It's basically because since his daughter was killed, Gerald and Shadow see humanity as a blight on their existence. And Ivo just wants to rule the world, not destroy it, which is why once he finds out about his actual plan, he tries to stop him. Third, these types of dark themes are nothing new to kids shows and movies, like The Lion King with Mufasa's death, Bridge to Terabithia where the MC's friend dies, and the second half of the movie is just about his grief, and Iron Giant and so on. To say that you think this is a bit much for a kids movie just showcases your ignorance.
This is a movie, like so many kids' movies these days, that schizophrenically darts back and forth from being ironic to painfully self-serious to goofy to earnest, and so on and so on. It doesn't try to smooth over these tonal transitions with good writing or performances. The writing is just terrible, and the performances are atrocious across the board. Instead, it just flings it all against the wall haphazardly, because these are all bullet points that the movie studio knows it has to hit.
Alright, to be fair, there was this one part in the movie where it was jumping from a scene full of emotions to straight comedy, but that doesn't mean the movie is terrible because of that.
Because this movie, again, like so many kids' movies these days, is not the fulfillment of anyone's creative vision. It is just the product of a corporate algorithm. It is loud and ugly and obnoxious and disjointed because nobody who made the film actually cared about making a good film.
Don't you lecture me with your $30 haircut.
And they have absolutely no respect for their audience. I mean, this movie could have been made by AI. We are at a point. If they start making movies with AI, we would not know the difference because they've effectively been doing that for 20 years now.
Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Now, you might respond here, as many people on Twitter did after I gave a very brief review of this film in a tweet on the site a few days ago. You might respond that, well, this movie isn't for me. It's for kids. Well, first of all, tell that to the other people in the theater with us. I can tell you that my kids were by far the youngest people in attendance. There were multiple groups of adults, just adults, no kids, whole groups of them who bought tickets to Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Also, tell it to the multiple grown adults who got angry at me on Twitter for not liking the movie. The funny thing is that a lot of those same people say, well, it's not for you, it's for kids. Why are you getting so upset about it then? Why are you tearfully defending a movie that you claim is not for you either?
Okay, nigga. Sonic has been around for over 20 years now, and there have been fans of that property since then. And here's the crazy part. People grow up and they might, just might, still be fans of that series and will pay to see a movie based on said series. I know, it's crazy. But it's not as crazy as the point you were trying to make that the movie isn't for kids because of a bunch of adults who was watching it. In fact, that's not just crazy, that's just straight up retarded. This movie, I argue, isn't just for kids. It's more like a movie tailored for kids that anyone can enjoy. Kind of like, I don't know, name a Cartoon Network show.
In fact, one person told me that my negative comments had upset, and I'm repeating this phrase verbatim, had upset the quote, Sonic community. Now, those are not kids who identify themselves as members of the Sonic community. My 8-year-old loves Sonic, but he's not on Twitter furiously defending the Sonic community from its detractors. So I agree that these kinds of movies are for kids, but I am not the one who needs to be told that.
I don't know what's sadder, the fact that he doesn't understand the irony of defending something that's cared about from detractors while also being a right-wing YouTuber, or the fact that he agrees that this movie is for kids and he still doesn't understand it.
Okay. Second, and this is most important, and it shouldn't need to be explained, but really it does, and that's really my only point here. It is possible to make a children's movie that, although it's for children, is still a good, high-quality piece of art. I don't hate children's movies just because they're for children. Quite the opposite. As a father of 6, I've watched many, many children's movies. Okay, I've watched way more than the average person because I have so many kids. And I greatly appreciate the good ones. A few nights ago, just as an example, we watched the movie Iron Giant with my kids, and that's one that I can watch and also enjoy. Because as it turns out, children's movies are not just for children, they're for parents too.
Hold up, you just acknowledged that kids' movies can be watched by all audiences. So then what the hell was that bitch fit of an argument you gave earlier? Not only that, literally the only valid criticism you gave this 10-minute review of the movie was the tonal changes. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't well written.
Or at least they should be. Okay, if a kid's movie or kid's show is so grating and so dumb and so unpleasant that parents can't stand to be in the same room while it's on, that doesn't mean it's for kids. It isn't for kids. It isn't for anyone. It's just bad.
Come here. Shut your stupid ass up.
Alright, listen bro, if you are putting something on like Cocomelon and you as an adult can't stand that shit, that doesn't mean it's bad. It's like saying basketball as a sport is bad, but when you play, all you shooting are straight bricks.
And the fact that people say, well, of course it's bad, it's for kids, tells you everything you need to know about our culture. They act like it's ridiculous to expect the content produced for kids to be high quality or to have any artistic merit whatsoever. But I tend to think exactly the opposite. I think content produced for kids should especially be high quality and should especially have artistic merit, which is why I hated Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and why it is today, I must say, sadly, canceled.
That's probably the corniest way to end a video. Man, where do I even begin with this? I hesitate to even call this a review because he hasn't really said much of anything about the movie itself. Well, anything valid barring the inconsistent tone criticism. But other than that, it was just a mind-boggling waste of time. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you'd like, and have a good one. Peace.
Yeah, I wish I was a little bit taller.